Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Hooria Aamir. I welcome all my students to today's lecture regarding the gastric secretions. Now, this is one of the important university question as well as viva questions. Now, you all are supposed to make this table in your sketch notebooks, which is giving us the idea that how this total 6.7 liters of the total production of intestinal juices take place. Now, we are going to make the chart for this, and it includes that saliva is around 1 liter, gastric juice is around 1.5 liter, pancreatic secretion 1 liter, bile 1 liter, small intestinal secretion 1 liter, 1.8 liter, Brunner gland secretions 200 ml, large gut 200 ml, and total is like 6700 ml, which is 6.7 liters. Now we should be knowing about the functions of stomach. Now what are they? They are like, they have secretory functions, they have motor functions. Now they function as a reservoir and storage, they function as movements. They have the mixing and propulsive type of movements. There is slow release of food into the small intestine for further processing, that is empty. Now secretory function. Secretory functions, the fundus and the body, they contain the gastric glands. Now these gastric glands, they secrete hydrochloric acid as well as the intrinsic factor, both by the parietal cells, pepsin. The chief cells, they secrete the pepsin and mucus from all the parts. Then the pyloric gland, they secrete the hormone, that is the gastrin. So these are the secretory functions. They have short-term storage reservoir function. They have the function of liquidification of food. They have the function of chemical and enzymatic digestion of food, particularly the proteins. Now the gastric secretions, they are by two type of glands. There is gastric as well as pyloric. Now the gastric glands, they secrete the 80% of the stomach secretions, and including the hydrochloric acid, pepsinogen, intrinsic factor, mucus, chymosin, renin, and pyloric area of the stomach is going to secrete the hormone gastrin as well as mucus and small amounts of pepsinogens as well. Now look at this. The gastric glands, they are actually occupying the 80% of the stomach. There is presence of three different type of cells in the gastric glands, and they have the mucous neck cells, the peptic cells or the chief cells releasing pepsinogen, the parietal cells releasing hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor. Now oxantic gland from the body of the stomach. See, there is surface epithelium, the mucous neck cells, the oxantic cells, and the peptic or the chief cells. See, mucous cells, how 80% of the area is having such type of glands, oxantic glands or gastric glands. See, the secretory regions, there is fundus, then there is oxantic gland area, orit area, then there is the last area of the stomach, that is the chordate area, and given the name of pylorus. And see, the oxantic gland having the gastric lumen, mucus layer, surface epithelial cells, then there is presence of parietal cells, then there is, and in the depth there is presence of the chief cells or the peptic cells. Again, look at the picture. Now pyloric glands, If we say like pyloric gland and oxantic gland percentage, you should all be knowing it, that this 80% and 20%. Now in the pyloric gland there is presence of like two cell types, the G cells releasing the gastrin and the mucous neck cells, mucus amounts pepsinogen. Now the gastric secretion, what is the composition of gastric secretion? Gastric juice that is composed of hydrochloric acid, pepsin, mucus, intrinsic factor. Now hydrochloric acid is important for the conversion of pepsinogen to pepsin, and also it is making the food antiseptic, that is bacteriostatic effect. It is not allowing the bacteria to grow there. Then pepsin is important for the protein digestion. Then there is mucus. Mucus, you all know, that is actually protective coating throughout the gut wall, and very good lubricant, and is a part of gastric mucosal barrier. And intrinsic factor is important for binding vitamin B12, which is said to be the extrinsic factor, and important for it so that it should be absorbed from that of ileum. Now, what is the basic mechanism of hydrochloric acid secretion? Now, when stimulated, the parietal cells, they secrete an acid solution that contains about 160 millimoles of hydrochloric acid per liter, which is almost exactly isotonic with that of the body fluids. Now pH of this acid is about 0.8, which is showing that it is extremely acidic in nature. Now at this pH, the hydrogen ion concentration is about 3 million times that of the arterial blood. So to concentrate this hydrogen ion, the tremendous amount of energy that is required, and why that is required, because of the, if energy is required, obviously it's an active transport process taking place, so that more than 1500 calories of energy per liter of gastric juice that is being required here. So see the anatomy of the canaliculi in a parietal oxantic cell. Now parietal cell, it contains large branching intracellular canaliculi. The hydrochloric acid is formed at the villus-like projections inside these canaliculi, and is then conducted through the canaliculi to the secretory end of the cell. हेलो हाँ जी